Here's the first thing most people don't realize. Hazel eyes aren't truly one color. They shift, they shimmer, they change with light, like liquid gold stirred into green. For centuries, poets have called them the eyes of enchantment. Scientists call them a genetic riddle. But behind their beauty lies a hidden story, one written deep in our DNA, a story of migration, mutation, and mystery. So, what is the dark secret behind hazel eyes? Let's uncover the truth. Long before genetics ever had a name, hazel eyes were seen as a mark of mystery. In ancient Rome, poets compared them to honey under shadow. In Celtic tales, they were said to belong to witches who could read thoughts. From Persia to Egypt, portraits of gods and warriors often showed that same golden-green hue, a color that seemed to change with the mood of the sky. Even today, hazel eyes carry that same spell. They shift between brown, green, and amber, never one thing for long. They've been called eyes of duality, of balance, of hidden fire beneath calm waters. But legends only tell half the story. Because while myths painted hazel eyes as magical, science reveals something even more extraordinary and far more real. I'm on a road to get 2,000 subscribers. Please subscribe. To understand hazel eyes, we have to start with how color itself is made. Eye color isn't painted on, it's sculpted by light, pigment, and reflection. The key player is melanin, the same pigment that colors our skin and hair. People with brown eyes have high levels of melanin, blue eyes have almost none. Hazel eyes sit in the delicate middle ground, and just enough pigment to darken the iris, yet light enough for light to scatter back golden and green. This dance of color happens inside the iris stroma, where sunlight bends and refracts through microscopic fibers, amplifying certain hues depending on lighting and angle. But there's more. Scientists have traced eye color inheritance to two major genes, OCA2 and HERG2, both located on chromosome 15. Tiny mutations in these genes control how much melanin the iris produces. In hazel eyes, they create an uneven distribution, patches of high pigment surrounded by lighter zones, like sunlight filtering through autumn leaves. That's why no two pairs of hazel eyes ever look the same. Only about 5% of the world's population has them, a small genetic minority, with a color that science still can't fully explain. So where did hazel eyes come from? To find the answer, we have to look back thousands of years, to the end of the last ice age, when the first humans began migrating north from Africa and the Middle East. As they settled in colder, cloudier regions, sunlight grew scarce. Dark brown eyes, rich in melanin, were no longer necessary to shield against ultraviolet rays. Gradually, mutations spread that reduced melanin production, giving rise to lighter eyes, blue, gray, and green. But hazel eyes didn't emerge from one single mutation. They appeared at the crossroads, a genetic balancing act between the high melanin of brown-eyed ancestors and the low melanin of blue-eyed descendants. In other words, hazel eyes are a living record of hybrid adaptation, a meeting point between two evolutionary extremes. They're proof that human evolution doesn't move in straight lines. It dances in circles, blending what came before with what's yet to come. Modern genetic research is now uncovering just how ancient hazel eyes really are. Deep inside burial sites across Europe and Western Asia, scientists have extracted fragments of DNA from people who lived thousands of years ago, from Neolithic farmers in Anatolia to hunter-gatherers along the Baltic coast. And within their genetic code lies the secret of hazel eyes. It turns out this color was born from intermingling, not isolation. When dark-eyed agriculturalists from the Middle East met light-eyed hunter-gatherers of northern Europe, their children inherited a mix of both pigment systems. The result? Eyes that weren't fully brown nor purely blue, but a shimmering in-between that caught the light like polished amber. In the lab, researchers traced this to intermediate expression of the OCA2 gene, moderated by HERG2, creating a patchwork of melanin concentration across the iris. That uneven distribution bends light in unpredictable ways, giving hazel eyes their shifting glow. In evolutionary terms, they're like fossils of genetic compromise, fragments of two worlds stitched into one gaze. When you look into hazel eyes today, you're seeing 10,000 years of human blending preserved in a single glance. Science doesn't just see beauty in hazel eyes, it sees patterns. People with hazel eyes share subtle biological traits that go beyond color. Because hazel eyes result from mixed melanin levels, their owners often have heightened light sensitivity. Too much sun can trigger squinting, headaches, or even migraines faster than in those with darker eyes. Some studies suggest differences in melatonin cycles. Hazel-eyed individuals may have slightly altered circadian rhythms, affecting sleep and mood regulation. There are even hints in genetic databases that hazel eye variants link to mild shifts in liver enzyme activity and alcohol metabolism, possibly explaining varied tolerance among populations, though this remains debated. And then there's psychology. Researchers have noticed that people with hazel or green eyes often score higher on emotional expressiveness and creativity tests. Coincidence? Maybe, but in nature, what begins as coincidence often hides deeper evolutionary logic. Long before laboratories decoded genes, civilizations built myths around hazel eyes. In ancient Egypt, the eyes of the goddess Isis were said to shimmer with gold and green, symbols of rebirth and divine sight. Persian poets called them the eyes that hold the sun. Celtic legends linked hazel eyes to wisdom, drawing from the sacred hazel tree, whose nuts were believed to grant knowledge to those who ate them. To medieval mystics, hazel eyes were the eyes between worlds, not dark enough for mystery, not light enough for purity, but forever shifting, as if carrying secrets from both sides. Even modern folklore clings to the idea that people with hazel eyes are unpredictable, intuitive, and somehow old souls. Behind the poetry and the superstition, these stories reveal something universal, that humanity has always sensed there's more to hazel eyes than meets the eye. Now we reach the part most people never hear about, the hidden cost of beauty. Genetically speaking, hazel eyes are not a stable color. They're a reflection of inconsistency, a biological compromise born from uneven melanin production. In the DNA, this irregularity comes from mutations that don't just affect eye color. They can also touch systems that regulate immunity, metabolism, and even brain chemistry. Some researchers have noted that the same OCA2 HERC2 variants linked to hazel pigmentation overlap with gene regions connected to autoimmune tendencies and neurological variability. That doesn't mean hazel eyes are dangerous, but it does mean they carry echoes of deeper genetic complexity. A reminder that evolution doesn't paint perfection, it paints experiments. Each pair of hazel eyes is the result of biological improvisation, where light and pigment never quite settle. Their color, forever caught between two worlds, is a visual symbol of what we all are, imperfect survivors of nature's endless trial and error. I'm on a road to get 2,000 subscribers. Please subscribe. The dark secret behind hazel eyes isn't darkness at all. It's chaos, the chaos that created us. Today, hazel eyes are scattered like rare gems across the planet. They're most common in parts of the Middle East, North Africa, and Southern and Western Europe, regions that once formed the great crossroads of human migration. In these lands, civilizations met and mingled, Celts, Moors, Romans, Persians, each leaving their trace in bloodlines and eventually in eyes. In Latin America, too, hazel eyes often appear as living proof of centuries of mixed ancestry. Every shade, from amber to olive, tells the story of genes traveling, merging, surviving. No single race or nation can claim them. They are, quite literally, the color of connection.